Thanks for joining me for another yoga practice. Today we're going to do a little practice that focuses on the hips and the lower back and our legs a little bit. But we know that this really affects the whole body. But that's just going to be our focus. You will need, ideally, perhaps a block, a belt. You could, hand towel is really great. Having a few hand towels is always handy, no pun intended. And this can be used for a couple of things. One of the things I'm going to use it for is to cover my eyes at the very end for resting. Okay. And a blanket to support your head, and I have a bolster for my legs for the last part when we do Shavasana. All right, so find a comfy place to lay down, right in the middle of your living room, or if you have a special designated place where you practice yoga. I got this very cool circular mat. It's not sticky, but it's nice to practice on for meditation and other devotional type practices, and anything where you don't need a sticky mat, it's nice to lay on. So I'm going to start on my back. And I might turn my head because I'm not sure how well the mic picks me up when I'm like this. So I have my knees bent and a little wider than hip width apart. My arms are laying out to the sides, and I'm resting on the side of my hand, like the pinky finger side, as opposed to palms up or palms down. It's very neutral in the shoulder socket. And let's just take a moment to sway the knees a little bit from side to side. This is a nice massage for your sacrum, your sacroiliac joints, where the sacrum meets your hip bones, and your hip bones and the muscles that attach through there. All are receiving messages of releasing, and that radiates outward to the body of the muscle, so where they attach around the outer hip. Soften your jaw, relax the lower teeth away from the upper teeth. That allows you to relax your tongue. Let the tongue sit back away from the teeth. And this can allow you to breathe in a very relaxed way. So as we sway, you're probably noticing that your abdominal organs are getting this nice rocking motion, and it's very good for your organs to get to move like this. They glide back and forth in relationship to one another. That keeps them healthy and functioning well. Okay, then we're going to come back to neutral, and that was a side-to-side movement. So now I'm going to do a pelvic rocking motion from the top of the sacrum down toward the tailbone. And as I glide from the top to the bottom, I'm letting my jaw soften, keeping that tongue relaxed, and just letting this movement flow freely. So as I go to the top of the sacrum, that's like tucking your tail, lifting your tail up toward the ceiling, pressing your lower back into the floor. And then as you roll through and the tailbone reaches for the floor, your lower back arches up off the floor. The front body is longer. You might enjoy a full breath if you're doing this really slowly. And exhaling, going in the other direction, releasing your lower back down into the floor. So as you do this, notice how your whole spine and therefore your head is responding. I'm not thinking about or trying to move my upper body, neck, or head, but as I rock the pelvis back and forth, you can also notice that your head is doing a little nodding. Good. So from here, we're going to come back to neutral. We're going to combine those two movements, the side to side and the rocking top to bottom, to form a circle. So I'm going to start by rolling the top of the sacrum into the floor. So my lower back is pressed down. And then I'm going to roll over to along the right sacroiliac joint, really. So my knees kind of sway to the right. And then I'm rolling along the surface of the sacrum around the edge toward the tailbone, which ends me up in this arched position where my lower back is arching up off the floor. And then I shift over in toward my left hip and gliding along the left sacroiliac joint or through the left, the musculature of the left half of the hip and back up to the top. So if I think of those 4 points, I can move from the top to the side, to the bottom, to the other side, and back up to the top. I could also visualize the face of a clock where the top of the sacrum is 12, and then I'm rolling along through the numbers to, let's say, if I'm visualizing my clock, I'm visualizing I'm moving through 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, back to 12. So just moving slowly around that circle, giving the bony landmarks a massage, which has a lot of acupressure points, as well as the musculature. And this releases the muscles all the way out into the body of the muscle and to where it attaches. Let's switch directions. Circle in the other direction. And as you do this, let your breath flow freely. Make sure that you're not holding your breath, especially if you're just trying to learn and coordinate this movement. You could sort of hold your breath. So soften your jaw. Release your tongue. And let the movement inform the breath. Let the breath affect the movement. Good. You could pause the video and just hang out here and do some sacral circles, because boy, does it feel lovely. But when you stop and you come back into the midline, you really are clear, at least I really am clear, where the center of my sacrum is. This is a neutral pelvis. This is a really interesting way to find neutral. So we could talk about that more sometime. Okay, so from that, I'm going to take my feet wider, really wide, and I'm going to go back into my swaying. So that as I'm swaying, one knee is clearly coming into the midline while the other drops away. And then I'm going to commit to resting on one side. So I'm just letting the legs drop down, allowing some time for a delicious deep breath as I breathe in. I can feel that movement traveling all through this side of the body where the leg is folding into the midline. So the breath is massaging, the movement of breath is massaging all the organs in here and allowing muscles of my hip to start to release and open up. Be sure to completely exhale. You can let your head roll to the side if it likes. If it feels good to keep it straight up, that's fine. To come out of this, take a deep in-breath first. Nice full in-breath. Exhale and bring the legs up. And then if you need to readjust your feet a little, you can. And we'll go to the other side. So as I drop the knees down toward the floor, and I didn't say this on the other side, but if this causes you any knee pain, of course stop. But you can prop your leg up. And I'll do this with the block, but sometimes I do it with the bolster. Like you could put a block or a bolster or some kind of prop there that allows that leg to be supported and therefore let go. The muscular tension can start to dissolve. So you could always support the leg in that way. So exhaling, let go of any muscular effort. Let your body surrender down into the floor. Feel how your breath can affect the whole side of the body. The organs are getting a massage. The hip starts to release tension and find some opening through the front of the hip. And then take a nice deep in-breath. Exhale to bring the legs up. And just do a little bit of swaying. So we're going to go into Setu Bandha now. So I'm bringing my feet in. They're not so wide as I was for that twist. And you need to decide, like you don't want your feet really close to you because then your knees will get strained. And if your feet are too far away from you, then you will be pushing most of your weight into your head. Now I know some of you have knee issues and you're just going to have to do the best that you can with this. I just wouldn't try to amplify the movement really big if your knees mean your feet have to be way out here. Arms are more down by the sides for this. And remember when we were rocking top to bottom? Well, I'm actually going to rock like my tail wants to touch the floor, and as if there's a string at about navel level, or maybe a little lower, and I'm just gonna lift up from there. So you could just lift so high. My feet are pressing the floor. I've got Tadasana feet. Most of the weight is in my heels. The ball of the foot is pressing. My toes are free. My toes are not turned out to the sides. I'm not doing a whole lot with my upper body right now. I'm just kind of lifting myself up, opening up the front body, and then lowering back down. So that is kind of nice to do. You could do that a few times. And then I'm going to do a variation where I add the arms. So I press through the feet and I lift the hips up. And I want to emphasize that I am not reaching up with my tailbone. In order to get a back arc, which this is, you have to let your pelvis tip forward. So the back arc can be free. And Then the shoulder part, I'm walking my shoulder blades. So notice how my upper arm bone rotates. I'm walking my shoulder blades down toward my feet. And you may be able to hold on to your feet, you might not. You can just press into the floor. You could take a belt here. I'm not going to take time to show that because the arms can just be here like this. And as I press through my upper arm bones, I let my rib cage reach as if it's trying to tip upward, softening the throat and the jaw, softening the soft palate. I'm using my feet here as if I'm trying to draw my heels toward my head. This really engages the hamstrings and the buttocks. It keeps the pressure out of my knees and keeps the weight out of my head. So I don't want to push my feet in the direction of my toes because all my weight would go right into my neck and my head. When you're done, you have to walk your shoulders back to flat so that you can lower the torso back down to the floor and sway your knees, right? So let's do this little rotation. If you find that when you come out of this pose and you immediately want to draw your knees towards your chest, you're probably amplifying the pose too much. You need to take it a little lower, be a little more gentle on your vertebral column, and do these twists before and after. I'm going to show a variation with the block. You could certainly use a bolster for this. So this is just a supported version. So I'm going back into Setu Bandha. Right? And you can slide something under your hips. Now, this is a very chilled, toned down Setu Bandha, but it could feel really good. Notice, I put this just right under my sacrum, right? So this is not in my lower back. And just hang out here. Maybe you'd like your arms overhead, whatever your arms and shoulders feel happy with. Listen to them. All right? Some of you may be able to amplify a little bit, even restoratively. So notice I took my heels up, I'm pressing down. I'm going to turn my block this way. So this is actually just about the width of my sacrum. So just resting my sacrum on that. Again, it is not in my lower back. And I can hang out like that for a while. Do whatever you want with your arms. And breathe. If you're a super back-archy person, you go higher. This is pretty high. Not very many people, I find, enjoy or can get the block that high. When I take the block that high, I kind of like to take my arms down and really enjoy this Jalandhara Bandha that happens here in the throat. But you could also take the arms overhead. So you could always just ignore me and stay here if you're having a good time, or pause the video. To get off the block, you have to bring your feet back up, lift yourself off the block, take it out, and lower yourself down. So again, you back to twists, either rocking or letting the knees drop down to the side. With a nice full breath, moving into the deep part of your torso. Completely exhaling. Let's do the other side. And a nice full in breath, exhaling as you come up. So now I'm going to do Supta Padangusthasana. I'm going to put a blanket under my head and get my belt. So, something under your head is nice. For this, if you don't have a belt, these actually work quite well. So we're going to start with bringing the right knee up to the chest, clasp your hands behind your thigh, and see if you can straighten your leg. And just move your foot around, do some circles. All right, if your arms don't reach, so say you're finding something like this and you're shaking, take that towel. Maybe you need to be here, right? So what I'm looking for is, can I straighten my knee and fully extend my leg, right? So you play around with that, all right? Supta Padangusthasana is where we take the big toe and we straighten the leg and extend the other leg out. This doesn't always work for everybody. That's why you could take that towel. You could also take a belt. I really prefer the loop in the belt. And then you can shorten your loop. That way it mimics the pose more, like when I was grabbing my big toe. I can just grab the belt, my arm is straight, my leg is straight. If your hamstrings are super tight, just bend this leg and explore that releasing of the resistance in the muscles there. Good. So then let's do the other side. This side might be different. You may need more belt on this side. And actually, I had you start like this. So let's do this first, because this is nice. Move your foot around. How the movement of the foot and even the toes affects your whole leg. Fascia. It's real. Okay, so now I'm taking the strap, I'm adjusting it to my level of flexibility in my hamstrings, or I'm demonstrating that for how you might use a belt. I mean, it really could, you may find that you're like this. Some people are like this. Okay, if this is the level of flexibility you have, this is really cool to go in a doorway and put your heel on the wall and let this foot go through the doorway. That way you don't need the belt and you get the support. All right, so give yourself some time to exhale and let the muscles release. And what I'm doing here, this is really useful. If you place your hand where you feel the resistance in your muscles, that actually gives the nervous system some feedback, and you actually gain more response. There's more of a response in the nervous system to releasing the muscles when you do hands-on work. Okay, and then we'll take that off. We're going to do the next variation. So bend both legs And as you put the belt on this foot, we're going to extend this leg out. It can be done with the knee bent. You turn the toes and the knee away from the midline, and we're going to take it out to the side. So if I was doing that with this knee bent, they just kind of counteract each other. If I extend the leg out, this leg is an anchor, so I'm pressing through the leg that's on the floor. The opposite hand reaches out. I am not just keeping this leg with my knee and toes facing me and dropping it to the floor. I am not doing that. I'm rotating in the thigh, and knee and toes are pointing away from the midline, and I'm trying to bring my toes toward the floor up here. So this may not be a huge movement for you. And I'm really using that resistance with the belt and the hand and the foot. And then we inhale and come back up. Switching sides, take your other leg up. I'll just demonstrate that the way I did with the knee bent, kind of giving it, you're getting a little resistance, you're getting into your adductors here. Legs straight, this is your anchor. Turn, rotate your thigh away from the midline, and then reach your foot up toward the floor by your shoulders. This arm is reaching out. It's very dynamic in the legs, in the arms. Your core is working. And then we come back up to the midline. We're going to go back to the first leg. Opposite arm. Whichever leg I have up, I'm opposite arm. This arm is resting out to the side, and I'm going to roll onto my side. So this arm is reaching out. If this is no good for your shoulder, bend your elbow, let your hand rest on your ribs. Still letting my shoulder blade reach back. I'm getting a nice rotation. The leg that's extended out on the floor is an anchor and reaching through that foot. And then to come up, bend your knee, roll back onto your back, switch sides. The opposite hand takes the belt. This arm's going to rest out on the floor as you roll onto your side. And if that's no good for the shoulder, just bend your elbow, let your hand rest on your ribs. Your shoulder blade can reach back as you enjoy your twist. Notice that my legs are dynamic and active. They're both reaching as if I'm pressing into an imaginary wall with each foot. And then when you're ready to come out of it, you can bend your knee, roll back onto your back. Rock from side to side. Enjoy the freedom of energy flow in your hips and legs and your torso. That kind of work really frees up some energy. Lets it flow through the body. So we definitely want to get some Shavasana. So bring something underneath your knees. Maybe your blanket under your head and neck. Take off glasses, watches. And you can put a little covering over your eyes, or an eye bag if you have one. Adjust your shoulder blades flat. Once you're settled, you want to release the buttocks away from your lower back. So I'm bringing one knee up and crossing the midline. This releases that musculature out away from my lower back so that my hips are nice and flat. And you do the other side. Tune in to the sensations of your body as you meet the bolster and the blanket and the floor. With each exhalation, you soften and dissolve your muscular effort. Surrender your weight to the earth. Soften your jaw and your tongue. And allow your consciousness, your attention to follow the gentle, subtle waves of your breath.